Hello again, it's Miss Jones with Sew with Miss Jones. We are now going to stitch the back and the front of our mask together. I have my needle threaded with one thread that has a knot at the end. Remember, you can use the quilter's knot that we learned here, or you can find another one, and there is one on one of my other videos that shows how to do a different kind of knot. And we are going to follow along this line. Remember, if you're right-handed, you're going to be working from left to right. If you are left-handed, you would probably be better off to start over here and work left to right. Did I say that wrong? So right-handers, right to left, left-handers, left to right. Got it. Okay. I am going to take these first two pins out because I have a little mark right here already, knowing that that's where I'm going to start. And I am going to use the Backstitch. Probably wondering, what the heck is that thing? Well, this is a leather thimble, and I have been sewing for a really long time, and I never learned to use a metal thimble very well. And if you do a lot of hand sewing, and this is probably not a lot, I'm talking about hours and hours, being able to use a thimble is really good. My mom always used one. She learned how to do it when she first learned to sew, and I was never taught, and I didn't practice enough. That's why I'm so bad at it. But I'm practicing because I really want to be able to use one. So I have my piece tilted just a little bit, just so it would be easier for you to see what I was doing. It'll look more like what it's going to look like for you. I'm going to take a tiny stitch, and I am going to use the Backstitch. Tiny stitch, pull it up so that my knot is flat, and then I'm going to go behind and forward. Behind and forward. And I am still using black thread. I did that on my sample because I wanted you to be able to see it, and I am doing that on my mask as well. Since the other side of this fabric is gray, it kind of blends in, so it's not a big deal. But I thought the black would show up a little bit better on the camera. So remember, we want these to be tiny. I got a stray thread there. And my dog is not happy for some reason. Shh, 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 you're okay. So behind and ahead, remember that thread is always in the middle, and I'm working hard to make these really tiny this time. I'm getting a little bit better. I don't do a lot of this kind of hand sewing. I sometimes do counted cross stitch, or I might do embroidery, but it's not like something that I do all the time. So when I haven't done it for a while, it's important even for me to practice again. When I was learning to do the Felt Friends, which is another project on my channel, I had not done an overcast stitch or a blanket stitch in probably close to 20 years because I didn't need them for anything. And so I had to practice quite a bit. Oh, got caught on my thimble. I used to try to use a thimble, and when I would use a thimble, I would just push with a different finger, so that kind of defeated the purpose. Now, if you notice, my thread is wanting to twist a little bit. And when that happens, just take your thread and your needle, find the short one, and hold on to it, and then just slide your needle all the way down to the bottom, and then slide it back up. Thread is twisted. It has more than one thread to it, and it's wrapped around itself. And as you stitch in and out, you actually are turning the thread a little bit with each stitch. Especially when you're doing stuff with embroidery, it'll get really, really tangled up. So that's also why you don't want to have a huge long thread. Okay, so back and forth. I'm going to go to the corner and turn, and then I'm going to let you get going on your own. Okay, so little tiny, I'm really trying to make little tiny stitches. I'm going to tell you they're going to look a whole lot better when I can sit down and do this on the couch and I don't have it so far away from my face. Trying to check to make sure I don't overshoot the corner. I don't want to go past the corner because I need to have a nice pivot there. I am going to, and you will too, before we turn it right side out, we're actually going to clip across here so that you don't have a lot of bulk. And so if I don't have, if I go too far, then I might cut that thread. I'm actually going to take one more stitch right on top of that one, just to make that a little more secure. And then I'm going to turn. And, you know, I don't have a perfectly straight line. Yours might not be perfectly straight either. Just do the best you can. Remember, for most of you, this is the very first time you've ever done something like this. And nobody is perfect at it the first time you do something. And my puppy, she doesn't usually bark a lot, so I'm not quite sure what her problem is today. Maybe she wants me to take her outside. I'm going to do just a couple more, and then I'm going to let you go so that you can stitch on your own. Okay? Remember, don't ever lay your needle down. Stick it in something. Either stick it in your fabric of your project, or stick it back into your pin cushion or something so that you don't lose it. So I'm going to keep going all the way around, and I will come back when I am almost finished, and then we will talk about what we do next. Bye for now. Well, I'm back again. I have stitched all the way around the perimeter of my mask. And if you notice, I was really unhappy with these stitches here, so before I started stitching the rest of it, I actually pulled this part out and redid it. Most of my stitches are pretty small. I worked really hard on trying to get them small. Yours may not be that small, but if you did a back stitch that was pretty small, or if you did the running stitch twice, you should be okay. I have my ironing board out and my ironing pad out, and I've got my iron. It's set on some steam, and it's in the steam range. And what I'm going to do before I turn this right side out is I am going to take the iron, and again, I'm pressing. I am not ironing. I want to make sure that I get all of those wrinkles out before I turn it right side out. Now, if you flip it over on the other side, you might notice that the line of stitching looks a lot more solid. That's because the threads are overlapping. One other thing I want to talk to you about, and this is something that sometimes really bugs students, and that is when you get all of these little threads that are fraying. Don't pull on them. Your best bet is, if they're really bothering you, take a scissors and just clip them off. If you pull on them, you can actually make the fabric a little bit smaller because you're pulling out part of the threads along the side. So just take a scissors and you can clip them. They're all going to be hidden on the inside in a minute, but you know, I've had students before that really bothers them and they keep pulling on them. Don't pull on them, just snip them off. So now that we have it pressed, we are going to trim the corners. Trimming the corners means that we are going to cut at a slant. And I'm going to draw this on here so you know what I'm talking about. And why do I have a pen? I need a pencil. You don't have to draw it on. I just wanted you to see what it is that I did. And of course that wasn't really good because it wasn't on the camera at the time. Here we go. So I made a diagonal line right across there. See if you can see that. Ooh, this way. So I am actually going to clip right across there, but I want to make sure that I do not clip through my stitches on the corner. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to very carefully cut across that corner. Remember I told you had to have sharp ones. Okay. And then I'm going to do that over here too, very carefully. It doesn't have to be right next to the stitches. You just want to get a little bit of that extra corner off so you don't have a big wad when you turn it right side out. Okay. So we have one more thing that I want to do before we actually turn it right side out, and this is a type of finger pressing. You want this edge right here to be really crisp when you turn it right side out. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pull this apart, you know, so that I can see the outside one and the inside one. So the plain one, and I'm going to just take my finger and carefully I'm going to pull them apart so that I can get right down in that seam. And I'm just kind of pulling that apart and running my finger over it. If you have a fingernail, it helps, but even if you don't, if you just use the flat part of your finger and try to press that open a little bit, it'll help it turn it when we get to the other side. All right, and then I'm going to do that here. You can do this with the iron as well, but it's sometimes it's a little scary when you have something that is that narrow. So I'm just pulling it apart and just pushing down on that seam allowance so that they are spread apart. And that'll just help me have a little crisper edge when we get ready to turn it right side out. If you're hearing that little jingling sound, every time my puppy Sasha, and she's not really a pup, she's 7, but every time she shakes her head, it makes the little things on her collar rattle, and so it just sounds like a little bell ringing. Okay, and one more side, and I'm actually going to try to do this all the way across, even where I have not stitched. And I need to make sure that when I do that, I don't pull it too far this way or I don't push it too far that way. So I'm going to right there, and then right in the middle. And this is something that your parent could help you with if you are using the iron, because it's really kind of tiny in there. I'm going to take the iron and I'm going to very carefully just stitch across, or slide it across there. Now, you don't have to do it with the iron. I'm just going to, because, you know, I was taught that pressing is as important as doing good sewing. That pressing well makes a huge difference in how your projects turn out. Okay, so it's all pressed. I am ready to turn it right side out, and that's the next thing that we're going to do.